Happy New Queer. It's Happy Pride Month, everybody.
Happy queers.
Happy Pride Month.
I didn't say that I was going to do that at all. I just wanted to get your reaction. I'm so glad I did that. Happy Pride Month, everybody. Welcome to our second annual Pride stream. So happy to be here with everybody here. Nice to see you guys. In this special stream, we're really excited to bring three of our beautiful, lovely Pride streamers here. Square Enix loving streamers here that we're just so excited to talk with today. Today's going to be kind of like a podcast style discussion, just chatting stream. We're going to chat about all things gaming, Pride, and everything that they love to do. So I hope you stick around, and I'm so glad that you guys are with us today. We're also going to have some giveaways, so you can win some cool Square Enix exclusive Pride merch. It's going to be awesome. So yeah, this is our Pride Munch that you can see here. But yeah, we'll get to that in just a second. Before we get into it, let's introduce the folks here. I'll start. My name's Samish, he, him pronouns. I've been working with Square Enix for about like 5-ish, 6-ish years. I'm really excited to do this because it's honestly kind of my coming out. Hi, I'm trans. So yeah, happy to be here. But yeah, Luxie?
Hi everyone, my name is Lexi. My pronouns are she, they, and I'm a sales analyst here at Square. Been here about a little over 2 years now. And yeah, happy Pride everyone. Thank you everyone for being here.
Perfect. Well, hi everybody, welcome on in. My name is Miguel. I am office administrator / front desk receptionist here at Square Enix. So if you've ever called in or you might have visited the office once or twice, then I probably helped you at some point or another. Otherwise, hello. First time meeting you in that case. So welcome on in. Samish, why don't we go back to you? Go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have to introduce our three lovely streamers here. So we'll do this in alphabetical order. I think that makes sense. So Amy, if you want to go first.
Hi guys, I'm Amy Sometimes. I stream a lot of Final Fantasy content actually. I've been playing Rebirth and Final Fantasy 14, doing my stuff before Dawn Trail drops at the end of this month. My pronouns are she, her, and yeah.
I'll go next. My name is Emmy. My pronouns are she, they. I've been really into Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Final Fantasy 14. I'm in Shadowbringers right now, so it's like I'm right there in the trenches, and it's been great. And yeah, I'm super happy to be here. Thank you so much for the invite. I'm very excited for our conversation today.
Hi, my name is Mia, also known as miabyte across all of the socials. I go by she, her, and I play a lot of Square Enix games, but mostly Final Fantasy. Again, smashed through Rebirth, absolutely adored it. Getting ready for 14. Dawn Trail's going to be fantastic. And yeah, I'm excited to be here and talk about all the queer stuff. It's going to be great. Oh, also, I'm a trans woman. There you go.
Oh yeah, let's go. All right. Before we actually get into it, do you want to tell everybody what your stream schedule typically is and like where they can find you? I'm assuming on Twitch, of course.
So I usually stream Monday, Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, and I stream on twitch.tv/Amy Sometimes. Fridays is our Final Fantasy Fridays, where we do all of our like dailies and stuff, and I've been currently helping my community prog some of the current extremes and some of the harder content that's a little bit more difficult to get groups together for.
I've been streaming on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And you can find me at twitch.tv/Emmy. Or also, I do reaction content on youtube.com/@Emmy as well.
My streams are actually a little bit all over the place at the moment because I also host content over at twitch.tv/gamingmag. They're having their DigiPride event, so it's kind of like completely messed up my schedule. But normally, I'm streaming on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays over on twitch.tv/miabyte. You can find me there.
All right. Amazing. Thanks so much, you guys, for joining us. I'm really, really excited for this. So, yeah. So let's get into it. What's Pride Month exactly? Why is it important? According to the GLAAD, which is the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, the annual recognition of Pride Month provides an opportunity for the community to come together, take stock, and recognize the advances and setbacks made in the past year. It also is a chance for the community to come together and celebrate in a festive, affirming atmosphere. So obviously, yeah, we're here to do that. We're here to celebrate us. We're here to celebrate you guys as well. And thanks for joining us here today. And you know, last year when we did this, we had a lot of outpouring of support and positive feedback from everybody in the community, and a lot of clamoring for more of this. So we're excited to continue this year, and hopefully throughout the rest of this month too. And I hope that you have a wonderful Pride Month. It's nice to see that we're all represented in this industry together. So yeah. We're gonna do a 2-segment stream today. So we're gonna do some Q&A in the beginning, some really light, kind of icebreaker topics, I guess you could say, talking about us and characters that we enjoy and things like that. And then we're gonna get into a little break in the middle. And then after that, we're going to do some more serious topics regarding, pride in the community, and how we can essentially push that diversity and push that inclusiveness forward. So yeah, that's the sketch. Let's do a giveaway first, yeah?
Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
Let's do a
We
giveaway.
love giveaways. Let's do it. What do we got?
So we have this giveaway here. This is going to be for the Americas and Europe only, so please make sure you are mindful of that. Winners are going to receive all of these things. Wow. So you can do #sweepstakes, and please make sure that your DMs are open. If your DMs are switched to private only, we can't reach out to you if you do actually win. So make sure you do that. Also, there was another thing, right?
Yes, exactly. So just make sure to keep your DMs open. Make sure to follow us. And
Yes,
then also
that's right.
just use #sweepstakes as well. So keep your eyes peeled, and best of luck to you all. And hopefully you will get a chance to win. So fingers crossed. We are rooting for all of you.
Yes. And while we're waiting for that, the results to pull in, I just want to ask everybody, how's everybody celebrating Pride Month this year?
I guess I can start.
Yeah.
We actually did the Pride Parade, the LA Pride Parade recently, and that was a lot of fun. We got to walk it, and it was just so cool getting to see everyone just be like, yeah, Square Enix, and this is the second time we got to do it, and it was very wholesome, and I had so much fun, and I've been to LA Pride, San Diego Pride, and SF Pride once before. But never the actual parade, just the celebration aspect of it. So it was really cool getting to be part of the parade this year.
Yeah, it was really lovely, especially seeing so many outpouring of the community. If you're in the LA, California area, LA Proud was fantastic. We all ended up going together, a lot of people from work, and it was fantastic seeing all the support and people screaming out, "I love Kingdom Hearts," So it's really just lovely seeing that kind of aspect from the community. So thank you. How about our lovely streamers? How have you all been celebrating Pride this month?
I actually I've been so busy this month as a queer streamer at Pride Month. A lot of it's been taken up just by streaming. Like I said, I host a lot of the queer related streams on a specific channel, but I feel like I'm a bad queer person because I've never been to a Pride event. Like it's just never lined up in my schedule to be able to go to one. But I really want to go. Like eventually, I just never find out about them until after it's happened, and I see the post. I'm like, oh no, I wish I was there. But yeah, most of it's just been doing a lot more work and streams because this is the time of year that we actually get reached out to by companies, which is fun, specifically for queer related stuff. So yeah, that's mostly what I've been doing.
I just want to say you're never a bad queer.
Yeah,
I just need
the
to,
same thing.
yeah.
And also,
Never a bad queer.
Also, streaming is very important, and it is very queer, especially during Pride Month. So you are definitely doing the work.
Yeah,
That is worth celebrating.
You're already maximizing your queer. Any pride parades is just like a cherry on top. Trust me.
True.
Exactly.
I was just talking to my community about this yesterday, about how I've never been to a normal pride parade. I've only been to like alt pride parades in San Francisco. So I was like, I would like to make it out to one someday, like a not normal pride parade, but like the main pride parade rather than like the all like branch off pride parades.
For sure.
Yeah, Mia, you saying that made me feel a lot better because I haven't been to one either. That's kind of funny that all three of us haven't been to like, the main events. And I'm the same way. I literally always find out about it after. But I feel like here on Twitch, like I really enjoy finding new queer streamers, and like that's like my favorite part about Pride Month on Twitch is like how much I am seeing new people and like the uplifting of others. I feel like it's just this great community feeling throughout the whole month.
Yeah, I feel like that's just as valid. Everyone celebrates Pride Month in their own way, and I think, and I'm the same. Like I love watching queer streamers on Twitch as well during Pride Month, and it's getting to build a bigger community like virtually as well, and like so. Don't gotta always be at Pride parades. It's like everyone celebrates differently, and I think that's really cool.
Exactly. And we're celebrating Pride already just by being here.
Yeah.
So we're doing great work. So well done to all of you, and well done for putting on the streams and for keeping, everything just going, keeping everything delightfully queer. So props to you.
Yeah. I also just want to say, like, online is kind of the best way for people to explore their queerness in a way. And sometimes it's the safest way for them to do that. So even if you can't actually go to a Pride event that's in public or in person, like you're doing a lot of really good work just by streaming on Twitch and sharing your experiences and stuff. And I think that's really great. Thanks so much.
Perfect. So everybody make sure you got checked in for the sweepstakes.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll just keep it open. Best of luck to you all.
Go ahead.
So
Amy.
that actually ties into what I've been doing for Pride Month. I'm part of the Twitch Unity Guild's Pride train that has been going on. It's actually like, it's ridiculous. It's 12 days long. I already did my segment, but we were raising money for a little charity called It Gets Better, which is about connecting the LGBTQIA+ youth online and in communities so that they feel less isolated, that they know it gets better, that it might be hard now and they might feel alone, but that it won't always be that way. And one day they'll be able to, be loud and proud and out. And right now they just have to be safe, and they have to find like resources and support to help them through hard times.
Hell yeah, that's great. How's our giveaway? Oh, we got to keep vamping.
Fantastic, yes. So just keep checking in. We're getting a lot of people coming in anyway, so don't worry. We are still good. Why don't we go ahead and select our first winner in that case. So thank you all so much for participating. And again, just to reiterate, each winner is going to receive a Mina Pride drawstring bag, Pride tote bag as well, Mina stickers as well, different variants of Mina. So hopefully, fingers crossed, everything goes well for you. Best of luck to you all. And we are rooting for each and every one of you because it's Pride. So why not celebrate Pride by giving plenty of Pride merch to go along with it? I personally could use a Pride tote bag myself. I actually like taking one of those whenever I go to the grocery store because, it just comes in handy. And also, it's Pride. Who doesn't want Mina merch?
That and like that tote bag's pretty durable.
It is really nice. It is
Yeah,
it's
I
very
have
nice
mine's
and
right
durable,
here.
which is cool.
Yeah, I can Vanna this.
Ah, there you go. So this is what you will be winning if you are lucky enough to win the sweepstakes. It's a nice little Mina bag.
Ooh, wait, the green screen. Hold on. Yeah, the green screen kind of makes Mina Enixified. So.
Different variant, so to speak.
Well, that's what you can win.
Waiting for the winners here.
I put it in chat. I put the first one.
Ooh.
Let's see who we got here. Just checking crossing our T's and our I's. Let's see who we got for our first winner real fast.
Someone needs to announce it.
Perfect. And then just to reiterate again, make sure to keep your DMs open. Make sure to follow us as well so that you would be able to see. And then just double check and make sure that everything is good to go so we can keep that in mind as well. But why don't you go ahead and mention how else are you celebrating as well in the chat? Is there anything else that you're doing on your side? Are you playing any queer-related media or anything that's going through on your end?
This user said, gays love a toe, and I completely agree.
So real.
So real.
I almost lost it at that comment, to be fair, because that is so true.
Yeah, so real. Chat member, I see you, and you're valid. This
You
chat
and all
member
of your
says,
totes.
I always donate to the Trevor Project. That's fantastic. Hell yeah. Thanks to an amazing streamer who passed away last year. My condolences, but also what a wonderful way to honor their memory.
Perfect. All right, and we got our first winner right here. Is it EVN? Perfect. Thank you so much. Congratulations. I'm going to type it in the chat just to make sure. So congratulations on winning. Make sure to keep your DMs open and then also follow us. We will be contacting you shortly for our first giveaway. Well done.
And we have a second winner. Sanish, do you want to announce these?
Oh yeah, sure. I like this username, it's great. Second winner is Superfly with a PH 0. It's really good. I like that one. Congrats on winning. Congrats on the queers.
Congrats on the queers. Congrats to our winners. Yeah.
Amy really brain rotted me with that one. Okay, so we can get this going, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, let's get to our first Q&A. So let's start with a softball, right? So how did you first discover that you were a part of the Pride community? And like, how did you feel like sharing that with other people? We'll start with Amy.
So when I was younger, I didn't know what being gay meant. I didn't know that was an option. And I grew up in a pretty traditional Asian household, so you can imagine that that was not an option that was given to me. And then, of course, in my formative years, when I ended up in college, I had a friend who asked me straight up and was like, hey, you gay? You like women or men? And I was like, you know, that's a good question. Now that I think about it, like, that doesn't matter to me so much. And she was like, oh, cool. So you're like pansexual. Awesome. And I was like, what does that word mean? Like, I just learned what lesbian meant, let alone like what pansexual meant. And so that kind of sent me into like the spiral of like, what am I? What do I like? And I've just been kind of amorphously like, on that journey of, hey, I guess I don't really care about your gender. I guess pansexual does kind of fit me as a title. And so that's kind of how I discovered that I was gay. And obviously watching like, you know, TV shows and seeing a character and being like, oh wow, Custis from Final Fantasy VIII with a whip, huh?
It's so good.
That's a big mood.
Really big mood. Yeah. Emmy?
Yeah, Amy, I feel like I could relate to you a lot because growing up, I feel like I knew of the concept of gay, but you didn't really hear much about bisexuality or pansexuality. So when I was growing up, it seemed like a very black and white thing to me. And as someone who is bisexual, it took me a while to discover that. And I actually only really discovered it in the pandemic, which like was an awful experience, but I am grateful for the fact that like stopping from going outside and being, in the outside world, like really forced me to look inward and discover things about myself. So yeah, like I appreciate that. I really love like how already I can relate so much to both of our conversations, and we're only getting into the tip of the iceberg here.
Yeah, like there's an option to have both. Like you can choose both.
Right, right.
That's great.
So interesting that you both say that you weren't really aware of anything like growing up until you came across that information, which like for me growing up in the 90s, like that was very much the same. Like I always knew I was queer, but I just didn't have the words or the terminology to express it. Like you saw gay people on TV, but the only representation for like trans people in media was like usually the butt of jokes and comedic movies and stuff, like very terrible representation. So in the back of my mind, it was always, oh well, I can't be a trans person. Like I can't be this. I can't be the thing that I want to be, even though I know what I am, because I will get ridiculed. I will be like pushed away by people, and like I'll just be the stereotype of like a man in a dress because that's all I saw. And it wasn't until like my until I was like 24 years old that I actually saw real trans people online and discovered like, oh, there is a community, there is a medical process for this. So I guess like I always knew, but just not having like the possibility or idea of even knowing that that was something I could pursue until much later on in life. It just wasn't talked about where I grew up. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like you put it perfectly, Mia, like of having that part of yourself that you just didn't have a word for. Like it's just something so like amazing to discover and put a word for it and identify with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that these days, like, there's a lot more representation because people find out about themselves so much earlier now and are able to, especially in the trans community, are able to just like be the person that they want to be, and just have a better quality of life.
Yeah, absolutely. Like getting that realization really, really early really helps too, I think. Because I think similarly to you, Mia, like I've always known that I was some type of queer, but I didn't know exactly what that was. I didn't have definitions. I didn't have a lot of like representation in media that I could see. I feel like my first maybe inclination that I have something was like seeing Sailor Uranus from Sailor Moon and being like,
So real.
is that me? Like that felt very much like I didn't feel right being, how I'm supposed to be, but that was a character that I could really relate to because she sort of wasn't what she wasn't the gender norm, So I always really related to that. And I feel like getting that representation really, really early, it just makes so much world of a difference. But yeah, thanks everybody for sharing your stories. Luxie, Miguel.
Yeah, I really resonated with that, especially when it comes to, not putting it into words and then trying to, it's hard to piece together the words and the feelings when you're not really sure how to put it, especially when you're not exposed to that sort of thing. Like I know for the longest time when I was growing up, I wasn't until much later in life that I found out I had other queer relatives and friends that my family knew, but they purposely kind of pushed us away towards that, because they were sort of thinking, well, maybe if there's no sort of exposure or anything like that. And so it was really hard because I felt really out of place with trying to put a label towards being gay. And then in high school, I always felt really different. And then I met some lovely queer people, in theater and band. And it was amazing to have that sort of guidance and really just be able to put into words like, oh, I'm gay. That's why I feel like somewhat out of place. And it was really a nice way to find a community once again and feel whole because you're able to, put a name to it and really find out more about it, and really just, it's a journey of self-discovery, and it's just something that's so valuable, especially, you know, during Pride. It's just so beautiful to see that kind of environment, and just really learning so much about yourself and being like the best version of yourself that you can be.
I think it. Sorry, I think it really helps to dispel this weird idea that like seeing queer content or queer representation makes you queer, because a lot of us didn't have that growing up, and we still ended up queer. So yeah, it's not a contagion. It's just like it's a normal part of life.
I think that's what's so fortunate about a lot of our queer youth these days, is that because they have so many more examples, because there's so many people out nowadays, and because the conversation is louder than it's ever been, they have an opportunity to like live their life loudly before, sooner than all of us had a chance to, you know what I mean? And it's so beautiful to see so many more people being able to be their truer selves, and to like start their journey earlier and with like more authenticity than we were maybe allowed to in our childhoods.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely more in my younger years. I think for me, when I had to, I also didn't have the words for it. I think it was literally just like bisexual, gay, and or you're straight or something, and like that was it for me, and lesbian. And when I originally when I first came out, I identified as a lesbian, and but I didn't quite identify as it. Like I had a girlfriend, and we were together for like, I want to say like 4 years, or like a pretty long time. But even then, like I was like late high school, I didn't say I was gay. Like I didn't feel like there was some dissonance in my brain that just couldn't say like this, like I am gay, I am queer, I am lesbian. And I think at the time that was a hard concept for me to grasp, because I was still like, you know, again, there's hardly any representation, and it was just like, am I? Like I knew there was something different about me, but not like, I just couldn't grasp that label on me. And I think now there's more, label is more encompassing, and I think it helps me gravitate towards, you know, one label or the other to kind of really feel more validated in that sense. But when I look back at it, I think when I look at fictional characters that I was attracted to in video games or in media or anything like that, I'm like, oh yeah, I like fictional men characters, and I like fictional women characters, and I'm like, I should have saw that coming. That said something about my sexuality, but I didn't at the time. But now I do, and so yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you say that, because like I should have known a lot earlier in terms of like outwardly expressing myself in those feelings, because one of my favorite anime growing up was Ranma 1/2, which just happens to be about
Yeah.
That's a very good
That's
one.
a gateway,
who
for sure.
magically get transformed into a girl by being splashed with cold water, and like I just really love that anime for some reason. I don't know why. It's just one of my faves. But
You're
yeah,
like, man,
definitely
I
should
would
learn.
love a cold shower right now.
just like it just being like, "Ugh, I wish that were me," but like, yeah, no, I'm totally straight. Yeah, no, I'm straight. Yeah.
I remember being younger and being like, don't we all think women are beautiful? And
Right.
my mom being like, yeah, of course. And now growing up, I'm like,
Sounds like a longer conversation to have with your mom.
Yeah.
every day,
Yeah.
my mind is more solidified in the thought process that I've had for many years. So I'm like, oh, like, but what if I really think girls are pretty? Everybody thinks girls are pretty. What's prettier than a girl? Mom?
We should have invited your mom today.
Yeah, that's true. Amy sometimes
Pretty
and
for
mom
that
sometimes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's
Love that.
awesome. Actually, I just want to call out really quick. Someone in the chat had mentioned, what is pansexual? So I think maybe we should define that, right? Amy, you want to take this?
Yeah, I actually had a conversation about this. I think it really depends on the person and what they feel is their like what they feel an affinity for and what calls to them a little bit more. But for me, the definition of pansexual, different from bisexual, is essentially bisexual is about like being attracted to the gender more than one gender from yourself, obviously, the bi in bisexual. And I think pansexual is being attracted regardless of gender.
Mm-hmm.
So separately from the gender.
Yeah, absolutely. I also subscribe to the pansexual label. So, yeah, I think that's put very succinctly. That's great.
I like that. Subscribe to that label.
Yeah. I hashtag subscribe to that label. I also.
Newsletter
Thanks, guys.
for your email inbox.
I'll be here all week.
Yeah.
Ask me all the questions you need.
All right. Well, I mean, since we were talking about it, I feel like a great segue into that would be like talking about like what is your absolute favorite character that comes from the queer community or the LGBTQ plus community. Mia, do you want to start this one?
Sure. Yeah. Well, this is a difficult question because I have a lot of favorites. Like every trans character that you can imagine is going to be default one of my favorites. So like Vivian from Paper Mario, Bridget from the Guilty Gear series, Madeline from Celeste. But outside of that scope, I'm quite a big fan of Dion from 16, obviously. But it would be more so, but there just wasn't enough time with that character, unfortunately. As much as I loved him, like I just wish there would have been more Dion in that game. But other than Dion, and I would say probably Ellie from The Last of Us is a fantastic character and some fantastic representation. But my personal all-time favorite, I gotta give it to Steph Gringridge from the Life is Strange series. Like a D&D nerdy type that like loves music. Like she has my heart, my whole
Did
heart.
you play the Life is Strange True Colors? The like extra
the
Steph
DLC?
part?
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
god!
So
Isn't
good.
that like all of the sapphic yearning you could have wanted in life? Like you're just like, oh
Absolutely.
wow, putting to words exactly the vibe.
Mhm.
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
geeky dorky queer woman. Yeah, of course. I was always gonna fall for her. So yeah.
For sure. Emmy, how about you?
Yeah, I think Steph is amazing. I think my favorite is going to have to be Dion though, because Final Fantasy 16 gave me so many feelings in general, but I streamed that game and I just know that moment with him and Terrence, like, but me and like all of us were just like, it was the best feeling ever. We were all like, yay, yay, gays, you know.
Validated.
And I just when there's, I think it's beautiful because it's like when there's a character who is gay in a story, but it doesn't necessarily revolve around it. I think that's really good inclusivity because it's just like a natural part of the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I feel the same way. One of my most favorite characters who is actually gay is Kim Kitsuragi from Disco Elysium. It's not like an important facet of his character, but he is open about his gayness. And he does explicitly say, you know, this doesn't change me, this doesn't define me, but it is a core part of me. And I think that that's
Right.
wonderful. Yeah. Amy, how about you?
So everybody said Dion and Terrence, which is my most prominent in my head because it was so like, I think a lot of the times, especially as we grew up playing games in the olden days, there was less representation out there because it was a little bit more like dicey to have representation, right? And so when Dion and Terrence was confirmed in that one scene, no spoilers, I remember being like, I like dropped my controller, I like slid back in my chair and I was like, oh my god, queers in my Final Fantasy. Like, I full on
In my
sobbed because it was like confirmation, you know. Like there are so many games where it's like hinted at, and you're like, oh, you might be a little fruity, but you know, et cetera, et cetera. I think prior to that, like in Final Fantasy, it was like Cuna. Cuna was my representation. I was like, me and homegirl home them is like, I was like, what are you doing here? Like, I remember being young and being like, oh, she, her, she, him, or shim is like what they would like
Yeah.
slash im for
slash
Kuna,
he.
and they
Yeah.
would just like interchange their pronouns, and I was like, what does this mean? What does this like mean as childhood myself? And then like in recent days discovering new games for me, because I spent my whole life playing so many JRPGs, which obviously is the representation is kind of like amorphous in there. Is like discovering the Life is Strange series and like discovering more games that have like more queer representation. And it's like David in Life is Strange 2, like watching him discover his sexuality and not even knowing from the beginning what he wanted, and then like as like the choices that you can make as him is like so mind blowing. You're like, oh my god, this is my experience, like this resonates so deeply with me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Piggybacking on Life is Strange, just because I really like that series, and Mia said some of my favorite queer characters already, which is fantastic. You know, Ellie from The Last of Us is fantastic. I really like Max and Chloe. I think their story from Life is Strange is so beautiful, especially because it's really nice to see Max as like a typical teenage girl kind of coming into her own, but with her powers. And then also just the way that she would basically just rip the world apart for Chloe. And it's just such a beautiful story. And it's like a coming of age thing that I really resonate with so much. And it's just, whenever I play that game, I always look like, oh, I wish that were me. Maybe not with like the power. I mean, yes, the powers, that would be fantastic. But I would just love to have that kind of like love story, and then also just be able to, bend time and space. I just think it's fantastic. It's one of my favorite queer characters and stories. I love it.
Peak sapphic yearning.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
What's more gay than bending space and time for the love of your life?
Honestly,
Exactly.
God, if we want to talk about that, Emmett Selk in FF14, forget about it. Forget about it. Oh my God. It's got my whole heart.
What is more gay than bending space and time for the love of your life?
Seriously. Luxie.
Mia kind of touched on it a bit, but for me it was what was more prominent for me was Ellie from The Last of Us. When I first played that game when it came out in like 2013, I think that was like at the time where I was still discovering myself, and so just getting to see Ellie be a confirmed, queer character, and it wasn't even, again, it wasn't like a token kind of representation. It was like she was just being her, and it was I'm like, how do I talk about this without like having kind of a spoiler, even though that game came out, more than 10 years ago. The person.
I feel like we're past the statute of limitations.
Okay,
on
yeah.
that,
It's like if you didn't play the
it's a
game,
really
you
long
gotta.
time ago.
Just her relationship, and it was, and I'm like, oh man, I'm like playing back the scene when. I'm like trying not to like talk too much about it, but then it was a lot of Ellie for me. I'm like, yeah, I think she was just, and I don't actually know how old she was in the game, but again, for me, it was kind of like coming of age, me trying to understand who I was, and being queer with myself, and yeah, and back then, and then getting to play The Last of Us 2, and seeing a more, I guess, mature version of her and her relationship, and then completely now jumping ship and talking about Final Fantasy 16 and Dion is just another modern, how do I say this, like a refreshing take on another queer story without it also being, again, the token gay character in a game.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Plus
like
he's
when
cool as
in
hell.
media you want like that representation that they're just gay, okay, and they're this character, and these are all these facets of this character, and he just also happens to be gay, bam, right there. And
Yeah.
then, but look at him also being a baddie, doing everything else that he needs to get done. And then the gay is part of him, but not necessarily like, this is a story about gays.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think I would like to mention one of my most favorite characters ever from one of our games is actually Kaine from Nier. Kaine is so special to me because she is intersex, and you don't actually get a lot of intersex representation ever in like any type of media. So I really think that Kaine is like one of the best for me, for sure.
It's really cool. I did want to mention, like, I know we're specifically talking about LGBTQI plus characters, but I kept thinking, like, we didn't have that much representation growing up. But there's something to be said about, like, finding, like, analogous kind of like experiences through like cis characters too. Obviously, like the cast of FF7 isn't queer. None of the main characters anyway. But like I could definitely relate growing up to like Cloud's experience of self-discovery and finding out who you are and being confused about your identity and pretending to be something for a really long time that isn't actually you. So I definitely like related in Cloud a bunch, even though Cloud is like a cis hetero character.
For sure, yeah. We were talking
So it's
about
not impossible. It's just more difficult
Right.
to find that representation.
Yeah. No, yeah, I feel that. We were talking about that before the stream started, but I think that it's like so important to acknowledge the fact that, you know, back in the day, we didn't really have a lot of representation. So we sort of ascribe ourselves to characters that are cis or characters that are not really explicitly defined. And I think that's one of the great things about games and media and things like that. It's just, you know, finding ourselves within these characters and exploring that in a safe way, right? So, because you're not putting yourself out there when you're not quite ready yet. I think that's so important, and that's a great point to bring up. I wanted to point out, because I would be absolutely remiss if I didn't, and Amy, you mentioned them too, Quina, or how do you pronounce their name?
Them.
Yes. I love Quina. Chat member here mentioned Quina. He, she, they, the best. I can't say how relatable it is to their iconic phrases. There are only two things in world: things you can eat and things you know can eat. And I think that's so relatable for absolutely everybody. It's just fantastic.
What's more non-binary than Cuna's obsession with frogs?
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Yes.
Yes.
they set a
frogs.
standard for everybody else.
For sure, for sure.
Yes.
All right. Let's get into another. I feel like we talked about it too, so we can just continue this train. Why is it important to have queer representation in games, and how did that affect you? Emmy, do you want to start?
Yeah, I feel like, so I just recently graduated last year with my early childhood education degree, and I was a
Congratulations.
first grade teacher. Thank you. And I just look at my 6 and 7-year-olds from last year, and one of my students was trans, and he only knew that from media and the books that are being provided to, like the children's books, and it warms my heart so much because he had so much confidence in who he was. And I think the representation is so important because all of his friends, like when he first announced it to the classroom, they were a little bit confused, but you know, they love him and they were like, oh, okay. I think it's important to have representation, especially for children, because I think I would really love to steer away from the world of like heteronormativity, and I don't think there is a norm. And so I think the representation really helps create that kind of ideal.
Absolutely. I love what you said there, that there is no norm. Heteronormativity feels like it's just placed upon you, but there is no norm. I love that. That's great.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Piggybacking on that, just because Emmy just put it so eloquently, I really, that's also one of the reasons why I think queer representation is so important. It's for the younger generation, you know, and everybody, of course, anybody who's still discovering themselves. But what's really nice to see is, you know, people from our generation that are creating new content and new media for, you know, people who are younger and kind of putting words to it. And you know, there's honestly, it's the response from fans here. You know, sometimes we'll get feedback from them, and we'll get you know, like different letters or, you know, nice comments, or just people letting us know on the socials. And some of my favorites are messages from children. They'll be like, you know, 10 or 12-year-olds who are still like, you know, middle school, who are just discovering our games, and they'll say things like, "Oh, I love Life is Strange," or "I really love like these characters." Quinn, it was actually funny enough. Somebody did write about that at one point, which was really nice to see. And you know, it's just amazing hearing these kind of stories from people and seeing letters and saying that, you know, we love these characters, and like I found out I found my identity through them, and it's just so lovely and it's so heartwarming because, you know, when I think back onto where I was as a child around that age and still feeling confused and not knowing like where I fit in or how to put any sort of label to who I am or what I was feeling, it's just so heartwarming to see it in other people, like discovering it through other means, you know, either TV or gaming or what have you. And it's just beautiful. I think it's so amazing, and I think it should definitely be celebrated.
Absolutely. I would definitely like add on to that and say like it's that representation, no matter who you are, I feel like it's important for everyone. We all want to see ourselves like in the media that we consume. We want to see people like us because they have stories told that we can relate to. And I feel like there is a catharsis there in that, knowing that, well, we're not alone, and that the challenges that we personally face are also shared by others. But I also think it goes a little bit deeper than just having representation for the queer community alone, because I think there's like a tremendous importance on showing like cis hetero audiences other stories outside of their lived experience, outside of their bubble, like other, and it doesn't have to just extend to like queer experiences. It could be like any other kind of experience, like any other culture, for instance. There are so many people that live inside that bubble that never experience anything else, and having the representation there is an opportunity for them to learn something about other people. It increases knowledge, it increases empathy, and it's just so incredibly important for like just like you said, normalizing that these other people exist, and that's what we want at the end of the day. It's tremendously great for normalization.
Absolutely. I feel like the BIPOC community is just like, as a community, we all really are clamoring for more inclusivity and representation in all sorts of media. But I think especially in games, and I think our Life is Strange like whole, you know, IP has been really great for that. So yeah, thank you for calling that out, because yeah, it really means a lot.
I kind of wanted to add to that, where I think like, you know, having fictional characters who are queer fictional characters, there's just so much, you can add so much like lore to them and give very authentic queer stories to them. And having that, like having more of that and being able to show that, you know, they're like multifaceted people, and through narratives and getting to play through it, consume it in however way watching other people play these stories and games and whatnot can really help normalize the lives and experiences of queer people. But it's really important to be able to have that authentic narrative, because if you're just like, well, you know, if I'm like a cis hetero person having to write for a queer character, like I don't know what those experiences are like, and I'm just gonna write it the way, or write this character the way I think these lived experiences are, but it's not as authentic as it could be. And so I think the kind of to touch on what Mia said of like, you know, sometimes people only can live either in a bubble, or if there is no I guess IRL people in your vicinity or in your bubble, it's good to have the representation somewhere, so people who play these games or whatnot can feel represented in some way and be validated, because sometimes this is the only way they can access it. And I guess growing up, you know, for me it was like, if it was very limited, it was like, you know, what pieces of media, which characters can I be feeling more, or who can I really identify with, because in my immediate circle, I didn't have anyone who was queer that I can model or feel, because I didn't really identify with any of the cis hetero people in movies and TV shows and all that. For sure, yeah. Amy, did you have anything you wanted to add on too?
It kind of ties back to what we were saying earlier about how important it is for characters to have gay as an aspect of them, but not for it to be a focal point. Because once again, that goes into that normalization, you know, we're just gays out in the world. It's not, you know, it's not weird. It's not normative. It's just part of our identity. You know what I mean? And so it's really cool that like more and more projects are coming out, and more games and media are coming out with characters who are just matter of fact gay. You know what I mean? Like you'll do the whole story, and then there'll just be like moments and tidbits of where that might happen, or where you might see it confirmed in the storyline, and then they just go about their day because it is normal. It's not, there is no heteronormativity, because this is also normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To exist in that universe where that'd be great.
Yeah.
That's what we're working on.
Yeah.
That's what we're working on, guys.
That's what we're working on here right now.
Yeah, exactly. This is what this is doing for us.
Yes, exactly. Well, that was so great. Thank you so much, you guys. I think right now is time for another giveaway.
Another giveaway.
Another one.
Wow, we're just giving and free stuff over here, just like Oprah. So we're gonna go ahead and run this giveaway real quick, and then after the giveaway, we'll take a quick break. But for right now, let's take a look at those giveaway prizes. So, in order to enter the giveaway, make sure you enter #sweepstakes in the chat. Make sure that your Twitch whispers, I said DMs earlier, sorry, I need to use the correct terminology, whispers. They are unprivated. Your whispers, check your whispers. So make sure that those are open. It's only for the Americas and Europe. So just keep that in mind. And you can win all of these prizes. You'll win the drawstring bag, the tote bag, and you'll win stickers.
Two stickers.
2 stickers.
Not 1, not 3, 2 stickers.
2 bags.
But yeah, and while that's going, I just wanted to call back into the chat really quick. One person, incredibly poignant take that video games are a really safe way to explore queerness. And they mentioned Baldur's Gate 3 especially for that. And I do just want to highlight that. That was a great call out, because personally for me, video games were the way that I explored my queerness as well. I think, you know, Baldur's Gate is such a great example, because you can you have the option to choose what body you want, and that goes even further than just like a type A, type B body. You also have, you know, the option for certain genitalia and things like that, which is really, really great. And also all of the characters are romanceable no matter what gender you choose. And that's fantastic. going back to FF14 again, there's no romance in the game explicitly, but you can sort of, for your own personal experience, yeah, you explore that space in your headcanon, right? For myself, when I'm playing the game, I headcanon my character as intersex. And so when I'm going through the game, it feels really wonderful to just experience the game knowing that an intersex BIPOC character is the main character. And it's so important to me. But yeah. Yeah.
You're right about that there. Like, I want to add on to that, like, any game with a character creator is always going to be like fantastic representation for queer people. But also, like, if you're looking for that representation, I feel like the indie games are just like they took the ball and they ran with it. Like, the amount of wonderful queer representation in indie games is amazing. Just to call one out, definitely, and this is like a really, really cheap game, if you want to like maybe get your head around a trans experience to experience something that you haven't before, play a little game called One Night Hot Springs. It's very short and it's like part of like a series of a couple of short games, but it's about a very young trans person trying to go to an onsen in Japan for the first time, and everything that comes with that, like emotionally, about trying to be in a space where your body might not typically match the people around you. And that's really affecting, and it's very, very interesting.
That's wonderful.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
noted.
Yeah. I want to call out this chat member in here. They mentioned that using a Fantasia in Final Fantasy XIV after they were having some like gender questioning thoughts inspired a lot of gender euphoria for them. So I think that's so great, and also honestly really relatable for me as well. When I first started playing the game, you know, I started with a I had an Elysian woman as my character, and then I fantasiaed much later into an Aura male, and I felt like, oh, this feels right actually. So that was wonderful for me. Yeah.
Perfect. I think with that being said, we've got a lot of entries already for our sweepstakes. So why don't we go ahead and start picking some winners?
Yes, let's pick those winners.
Again, best of luck to you all. Make sure to keep your DM/whispers open and follow us as well. Good luck to all of you all. Let's see who we end up getting as our first winner for today.
Amy, that DM is so funny.
I was in my brain. I was like, "Oh, Samish plays 14. I bet they're an aura guy." And then you're like, "I fantasied into an aura guy," and I was like,
There it is. There it is. Called out. The first winner is Lindsay F54. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Woo, congratulations.
Yay! Make sure you check your Twitch whispers. Excuse me. I almost said DMs again. And then, oh boy. Second winner is Rizuru. I hope I said that right. I'm so sorry if I didn't. Rizuru, Riziru. Congratulations.
Woo, well done.
Wahoo! Also, you do
just
need to
for-
follow on Twitch. I'm so sorry. I forgot to call that out earlier. Yeah.
So just to add on, I saw that chat was also talking about demisexuality. I won't go into it right now, but I'm actually demi myself. So if anybody ever has questions outside of this, feel free to ask me about it. If you wanted to like explore that side of things, I'm more than open to talk about it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, awesome. Well, we can chat all about that, but we are going to go to our break really quick. So make sure you stand up, stretch, go pee if you need to, hydrate. We've been talking a lot here, so you got to hydrate. Make sure you do that. We'll be right back after about 10-ish minutes or so. So stick around. You can also win again.
Again.
So yeah,
Wow.
make sure to stick around in that case.
Also, if you want a chance to enter the giveaway, you should do a follow, because it's actually free in every country, today only. Yeah, so make sure you follow Square Enix and also follow Amy sometimes, follow Emmy, follow miabyte. It's free today. Okay, let's go to break.
Perfect. See you
See you
soon.
soon.
boy, we're right back. Hi. Hope you missed us. Hope you had a nice break. Got some hydration, went pee. Yeah, happy to be here. Hope you guys stuck around. We'll also have another giveaway later at the end of the stream, so keep track of that. But yeah, let's get it rolling. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about like representation in games and why it is important. And I think one of the biggest things is like the community that we have on Twitch and inclusivity and acceptance and spreading more of that. Since it's such an integral part of all of us here, especially our lovely streamer guests here, I kind of wanted to ask, just like round table, like, what do you think is a great way to introduce more inclusivity in games, but as well as the Twitch gaming space? Anybody can go for it.
I think with pronouns within the character creation, I know we already talked about like Baldur's Gate 3 and like how customizable that was, and I think that's amazing. I know that The Sims 4 just added pronouns as feedback from the community, and I think that's amazing for a company to be receptive and listening. And I think that's just such an easy, like it seems like such a small thing to add, but it's so important, and it can mean so many so much to so many people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember playing Harvestella. Square Enix just wrote. Harvestella is really cool because I remember when I first played it, it was kind of when, oh gosh, like right after like Animal Crossing had come out and stuff like that. And Harvestella came out and the demo came out, and I was going through character creation, and it wasn't genders, it was body types. It was you get to choose all of that, and I thought that was so cool. And I was like, oh my gosh, because that was one of the like first games that I noticed started doing that at the beginning when we started to become more inclusive. I want to say like that during that pandemic transition into our dystopian future, we started getting like that more inclusive like language and stuff like that, which was really exciting. And I remember very distinctly Harvestella having that and being like, whoa, Japanese game using pronouns.
Yeah,
I will
huge.
say, to piggyback off of that, something that's like completely related to that too is like I'd like to see more gender neutral language options being introduced in games too, because so often, depending, like, no matter what like body type you pick or pronouns you pick, your character is still referred to as either he or she, and it's would be so easy to implement, at least in text. It would be so easy to implement by just saying they instead for the people who want that. Obviously, that might be a lot more work when it comes to like voice acting and stuff, because you got like a third set of lines to record. But you know what? Voice actors need paying. Pay voice actors. It's a good idea.
Absolutely.
I like it too, especially with well, when I was playing more Genshin, Genshin Impact. I really liked that you could basically be known as the Traveler, which is really lovely because they would just refer to you as they them, use a lot of they them pronouns, and it wasn't like oh he she or anything like that. It was just really nice to see, and it's great to have that inclusivity, and it goes such a long way, and it's it's something small that some people might not think if it doesn't apply to them, but it goes such a really long way for needing that kind of representation. I wish more games would take that into account, and I hope they do, because it would just be great in the long run.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's cool.
It's really nice.
Okay. Go.
Somebody in chat said not gender locking clothes.
Yes.
And I do want to say that with
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 14, I know it's not perfect yet and they're still very much working on this, but like more and more clothes are being gender unlocked, and it's like so beautiful to see that you're able to like wear whatever on whatever body type. It's so nice. That's very exciting to me because it used to be so like strict. I want to say even like 3 or 4 years ago,
Yes.
and now all of that is starting to happen, and more of that,
Yeah, we desperately want more of that. We need more Valentino dresses on everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like we decided to gender clothes as a society, like, and it doesn't even make sense. Like sticking them between these roles. Back when high heels were first invented, they were for men. So like these ideas that we have about clothing and who it's for is just like it's completely
Pink
wrong.
too.
Yeah, the
Pink
color
was the
Yeah.
men's
Mhm.
fashion option.
Hmm.
Women weren't even
Pink was
like
for
wearing
boys. It
pink.
was it's ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I think one of the things that I saw, especially here in the chat too, is the ability to showcase pronouns, especially in like a Twitch space. I know some people use the extension, but it's not widely known. Yeah, I also use the extension, but it's not widely known, and it's also not like supported on mobile, which is unfortunate. So I feel like that's one thing, especially in like a Twitch gaming space, to include more people into the space. And it's really cool because the extension has neo pronouns as well, which a lot of people are making use more of these days. And I think that's great. Another person in the chat here mentioned um, um, using more pronouns in the gaming space rather than just like being locked to he, she, they, maybe even including more than that. That would be really amazing. Um, yeah, that was really wonderful. Anything to add, you guys?
Somebody mentioned Stardew Valley in the chat, playing Stardew Valley, and I heavily agree because Stardew Valley is one of my favorite games of all time. It's one of my comfort games, and just speaking about queer representation in general, cannot tell you how much I love the fact that you can romance any sort of character, regardless of gender or anything like that. It's just so nice. And you get to live your nice, peaceful little farm lifestyle, which is great for me because I'm very much a city person. But it's just so nice to be able to have that fantasy of living out on a farm, but also having such wonderful queer representation. And it's been a hot minute because I haven't played the new update yet. But I think if I remember correctly, some of the clothes aren't gender locked. You could just wear whatever you'd like, which is really nice in there. And it's just such a nice facet and thing that, again, it goes such a long way and it really enhances the experience and it's just fantastic. And I hope more games and more studios take that into account because it goes such a long way, especially for queer representation. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to add something there. Is that this might sound a bit controversial, but I want characters that aren't necessarily romanceable. I want to see more characters that are like Arrow or Ace,
Yes.
or even characters like that, like in Baldur's Gate 3, characters will get with anybody. I want a character that's like strictly a lesbian. Like if you're like a male character and you've created a male character, they don't want anything to do with you because that's proper representation.
Sure, yeah.
I want a queer character that's exclusively queer.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see.
Yeah, piggybacking off of that, there is something about the acknowledgement of gender too, right? In games especially. Like, there's something that feels very validating to choose, like, if you were to choose, like, a femme body type, for example, body type B, but you choose, like, he, him pronouns, and you go to a character and they reference you by that. I think that's really validating. I think it's also really validating when, a lot of the ways that people like get around, being pansexual in a game is that they don't reference gender at all. But referencing that is also a great way to represent. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. That's a great call out. Somebody here also mentioned, as a gender fluid, multi-gender individual, I'd like if the gender you choose at the start didn't lock you in for the entire game. It would be nice to change pronouns in like basic settings anytime that you want it. I think that's also great. That would be wonderful. But yeah, we can scooch it along. I'd like to really talk about gender pronouns and non-binary identity, because we have been talking a lot about like choosing pronouns and how great it would be to just sort of switch on the fly. So about non-binary identity, I can sort of speak on this, but Luxie, do you want to speak on that?
Yeah, sure. Non-binary identity, I guess, kind of to loosely define it, is, someone who doesn't identify as male or female, so using the pronouns specifically she, her, he, him doesn't quite, fit with them. And for me, on my personal experience with that is, I want to say I probably didn't start to identify as non-binary until maybe in the last 3 or 4 years. And it was actually because of Twitch, because a lot of, in streams and whatnot, a lot of my Twitch friends would refer to me as a they, them. And even though I was, I guess, femme presenting and some of them knew who I was, or what I look like. And I was always like, I'm a she, her, why are they still referring to me as a they, them? But I guess for me, it was really just some more space to kind of explore and to kind of talk about what we talked about before, which is like online spaces to kind of explore your identity safely. And for me, it was, I guess, Twitch. And because of that, I started to feel a little bit more, I guess, gender euphoric in a way, because it was just like, I don't think I'm quite a she, her, but and not quite a they, them, but a she, they. And I guess to kind of also to touch on that a little bit, because I've gotten questions that are like, so what does that mean? Like, what is a she and what is a they? Like, is it an either or? And I think some people have preferences, like, oh, I'd like to be called, and kind of like order of pronouns, right? Like, to some people are all pronouns. Some people are like she, they, or he, they, or a they, he, and a they, she, and whatnot. And for me, I go by like 50-50. Like, I'm okay with that. But like some people are like, no, please, prioritize my they pronouns. And I think for me, personally speaking, it is always a treat when someone refers to me as a they, them. It's kind of like this identity in me in the background or something, because most people would just normally call, they look at me and they're like, oh, she's so-and-so. But I think it's always a nice validating treat to hear, like, oh, they so-and-so. Yeah.
For sure. That's great. Somebody in the chat also, I really want to call out what they said, that they think that they, them specifically had been catering to androgynous presenting people originally in the past. But I think that there's something really, really important about they, them being used by people regardless of how you present. I think that if you say that your pronouns are a certain way, regardless of how you look or how you sound or this, that, what have you, honoring those pronouns is so, so, so important.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah.
And I don't want to call out Emmy because she also has she, they pronouns, but if you want to speak on it, I would
Yeah.
curious to poke your brain on it.
Yeah, I was over here formulating my thoughts because I could relate a lot. And I feel like for me, like the she, they pronouns is, for me, it's like almost like a denial of the binary gender. And I just don't really feel like I identify, like you said, like fully she, her, fully she, they. And it's almost like I actually related, somebody in chat said like the gender fluid pronouns are like not the lock-in in a video game, because I feel that way. Like when I pick out my outfit for the day, I'm like, do I want to be like more feminine today, or do I want to be a little bit more like non-binary? And I think like that connection for me and with the video game reference is like, that would be so nice, because it really is like my daily experience of like, how do I want to present myself today? And Yeah, I think just for me personally, like the they pronouns are validating to hear. It's like you're being seen, and it's kind of like a denial of like the whole binary anyways, like back to the point of like how when high heels were first invented, they were for men and pink was manly. Like I'm just like it does, like for me, my insight on myself, I feel like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, for sure. I want to go back to what Mia had said before about like this idea that representation in games is like so important for cis people or het people to understand our experiences as well and share like what we go through, you know, and things like that. And I also want to exercise this idea that it's kind of important for cis people to try to put themselves into other people's shoes, you know, to maybe choose a different gender or choose a different pronouns and body type than what they have personally, and give it a shot. See how you feel playing as a character in that world. And I think it's a really, really enlightening experience. It's definitely how I found out about myself. You know, it's, I think, a relatable experience for a lot of different people. There's a video essay that I watched recently about how The Sims made someone gay, and I really think that it's such a wonderful encapsulation of what can happen, especially for like a lot of introverted gamers like ourselves. You know, that's just how we explore and how we can really push ourselves forward to be who we want to be.
Yeah, kind of to add to that, I think like for me, like I used to play like RuneScape back in the day, like the old school RuneScape, and I also explored like, you know, it's a fictional game, so I'm like, I'm gonna create a male character, and back then, you know, it was just like male or female, and so I picked male characters, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Like I feel today I am a man. And then I also had an alt account where I was also just a woman, and being able to have conversations in virtual spaces as one different than how you identify in the real world is a safe exploration of like what those conversations can be like, because it's in a virtual world. And kind of to touch on what Emmy mentioned about like how do you outwardly dress or like express yourself that day, like I can relate to that as well, because I think I went through, like I always go through like different clothing phases where sometimes I'll just like donate all my clothes. I'm like, I don't dress like that anymore. I'll get rid of all my like my short shorts and tank tops and whatnot, and then like 4 years later I'm like, damn, like probably shouldn't have got rid of that, because now I feel like dressing like that again. And then so I'm having to buy new clothes, and vice versa. I just go through these waves of just like having like new clothes, you know, because I don't know how I feel like, you know, expressing myself, and I feel like that, and I thought that was normal. In terms of like everyone experiences that, and then I started to understand myself more, learn more about myself and my, you know, like how me personally as someone who is also not binary is like, oh, we, you know, it's not, I'm not just in the women's section all the time, and men's clothes are just like too big for me and they don't really fit my body type, and so it's hard to find that like medium of like how do I want to express myself, because sometimes I just want a simple t-shirt, but in the women's section it's like crop tops and like you know, really glamoury sequenced clothes, and I'm like, I just want like a plain t-shirt, you know. Yeah, I can go on about that.
I will add on to the end of that as well, just to reiterate this idea that like clothes do not dictate your gender either, right? Like you can wear anything. Like if you're like a cis het straight guy who wants to wear a dress, wear a dress. It doesn't make you trans. It doesn't make you gay. Just a lot of this is about gender is about play. Just, you know, just experiment with who you are and find what you're comfortable with, and it doesn't even have to define you. You can be whatever you want to be. It's just the sticks in the mud that are going to try and get you down. But like, yeah.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really, really great. I want to actually keep this going because we've been talking a lot about the gender and non-binary identity and exploring that in games, but on Twitch specifically, I know that whether you associate yourself as non-binary or cis or you identify as one way or the other, we've had a lot of challenges, doing what we do on Twitch, streaming, being ourselves. And I think I'd like to get a read on like how everybody feels about like what we need to do to better our community. What's a way that we can sort of push more for acceptance? And what are the challenges that you faced while streaming on Twitch? Anybody can go.
I mean, it's a big question because like there's good and bad to it. Obviously, if you're an open queer person on the internet, you're gonna get a lot of hate, unfortunately. There's a lot of people out there that are just the worst kinds of people that seem to make it their hobby to pick apart queer people, to pick apart like gay people, trans people. And I guess it's like building barriers to deal with that and making sure that you're taking care of your mental health first. Like there's sometimes this idea that like if you're online then you have to be like on the front lines, like fighting all the time against these types of people. And sometimes that's just not possible. Like, it's okay to take like some days to switch off and just take some days to be yourself, because if you have to deal with that all the time, it'll make you go mad. But yeah, like I say, there's goods and bads to being openly queer online, but like a good thing about it is like there's a tremendous sense of community, especially within queer spaces. And just being able as a streamer just to reach out and like find other like-minded people and to know that you aren't alone in the world, and like a lot of people are going through the same things that you are. And one other thing for me as well, as a streamer, like I've been told on multiple occasions, like somebody sent me a message a couple of years after maybe seeing my stream and being like, you were the reason that I decided to come out through seeing you. And that has always been so incredibly like touching and like heartfelt to me to have like that much of an impact to that I am like somebody who helped somebody else discover who they are. That always makes what we're doing worth it, even with all of the stuff that we have to put up with.
It does feel like we're constantly in a battle online. I think that nowadays it's a little bit better maybe in certain ways, but it's like sometimes you'll log on and it'll just be like horrible things sent to you. I think I like being put on I was on like Twitch public access, and I never read those comments, because although I have some friends that are responding and supporting and like, oh my gosh, Amy, congrats, whatever, there's also like horrible viscera on there as well, and it's like, get a life. Live your life out there.
Yeah.
But Mia is absolutely right. I think what carries us through is what is like being able to be that beacon for people, to know that like this is a community that you can be yourself in, and we're not going to judge you, because we're also that way, and we're also looking for our people, we're looking for our tribe, you know what I mean? And so like having messages, I don't know how many people are like, Amy, I was in your stream, I in your community, and I noticed these people coming out, and suddenly I realized that what they were talking about resonated with me, and I've been exploring that, and I would like to come out to you as like, I'm trans now, or I'm gay now, I'm bisexual, etc. And I'm just like, I can't believe that I was part of that process. Like, I'm so I feel so blessed that you felt I was safe enough to come to tell me, and to that my community felt safe enough for you to discover that part of yourself and now be able to move more authentically through the world as you know? And that's what makes it all worth it.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
I'm gonna cry in the club.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just like about what you have to constantly be reminding yourself of, and like when those moments happen where people say either something like, I think it's actually interesting when people say something ignorant and they don't know it, because that can be like a teaching moment. And I think even though it's hard, like it's I know sometimes it drains me, like why do I always have to be the one to teach? It's kind of like a choosing your battle and knowing the importance of the battles.
Yeah, yeah. Because it takes so much energy at the end of the day. You like come across that and you're like, not again. Like, do I have to do this again? Can I not
Yeah.
just exist authentically as myself online without having to be the teacher in this moment? So I totally get that.
It's that
You
like
also
BIPOC energy. We are always teaching.
yeah. hmm You also reminded me one other challenge is like this. I wanted to help dispel this idea that because I constantly get these comments, like at least on social media, it's like, oh, why are X people like queer people or any other kind of people um, coming into video games and taking our space. And it's like, I want to dispel that idea because we've always been here. We may not have been as vocal in the past because of the amount of hate that we got, but like as people in gaming, like I've been playing games since I was like super young, since like the mid 90s. Like I was queer then and I'm queer now. And it's just because they had their blinders on, like that they don't see us. And now that they can see us, all of a sudden we're invading their spaces. We've always been here.
Where did all these queers come from?
Yeah.
The walls,
They
obviously.
were queer the whole time.
We've been here in your walls, in your closets, under your beds.
Yes.
Waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate that phrasing as well, like our spaces. They're not your spaces, they're
Yeah.
everyone's spaces.
Yes, well said. Yeah.
Like imagine the whole gaming space. It's just like the Call of Duty bros. You're like,
Yeah.
out here playing Super Mario since I was born.
Well, see, that's the thing, and it goes back to the idea of representation as well. It's like they're in a bubble where they've only seen one thing their entire life, so they assume
True.
that all of everything is now like cropping up now because they've just had their blinders onto everything.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like they're like, and why is representation important? Because you got these people with their blinders on, sitting in the dark, like, where did all these people come from suddenly? Like, so sorry, you only just turned on your lamp for the first time in your life. Like, we've been here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, not just playing the games too. I think it's also really important to highlight that people have been making these games who are also queer.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's
Yeah.
not like the precious game that you coddle and think that it's only for you has been made by people who are just like you. You know, like there's a lot of queer people who are in the game development space as well. And so to automatically assume that this is my space, why are you coming into my space? Do you know who's making your games, dude? People make games, and people who have been making games have always been queer or attributing to the pride community in some aspect. And so I think it's really, really important to acknowledge that we're not just a human of one lived experience. We're all living together in this community.
Yeah. And like just to add on to the end of that, the whole reason they're even thinking like that is because in the past that representation of queer people wasn't there. People were more afraid to speak up because of like the hate and anger. So yeah, I mean it makes perfect sense. Like as we start to feel more comfortable, we start being ourselves. That's why you see it more often, because things are changing for the better.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you. That was a great. I really, really dig that. if we can talk a little bit more about our experience, if you want to talk about like coming out in the Twitch space, I'd really, really like to hear your stories about that. How has it been, and what's a great thing about your community that makes you feel celebrated as you are?
Well, for me, I know I mentioned earlier, like I only really began like that self-discovery of myself in the pandemic. And so it's pretty recent for me. And I was an adult. Like I thought, I mean, not that like any 20-year-old has anything figured out, but like we all think we do. And so it was kind of like a rock my world moment. And I was really grateful because my parents raised me to always be educated on gay people and to know, like, you know, love is love, and like it doesn't matter as long as people aren't hurting each other. Like that's basically what I was raised to know. But even with that, I think my experience being bisexual with my parents' generation, that kind of confused them because it was more um, less black and white, sorry. And my mom was just like not sure really what that meant. So it was an adjustment. And I think it's fair. And it's like I had to kind of teach her what bisexuality was. And I was really, really, really held and supported by my online communities because in the pandemic, that was when I found Twitch. It's when I made so many of my friends that gave me this courage and this feeling of like, I can do this and I'm knowledgeable on it.
For sure.
I kind of want to, I mean, I don't stream, but I'm on Twitch a lot. And for me, like, even though, like, in high school, like, I knew I was queer, but for me, if it was probably also on Twitch in the last, like, 3 to 4 years, where when I was in more queer spaces, people had streamers and the community would have conversations about their coming out story, and their experiences. And for me, it was also like a learning moment, like as an adult. Like it was like I knew I was queer, but at the same time, I was still having another coming out experience. Like it was just relearning again myself. And I realized that there is still so much to learn about myself and my sexuality and how I navigate my relationship with myself and everyone around me. And Twitch gave me that space to just having more conversations about it. And I feel like I'm still constantly coming out, like, and like I don't know how else to say it, but like I just feel like I'm always constantly rediscovering myself multiple times, even though I know that I'm queer, and sometimes that can be just like me identifying as like bisexual, and then maybe in like 2 years from now I'm like, actually maybe I wasn't bisexual, maybe I am pansexual, and there's always new terms, omnisexual. Like there's so many ways to identify, and I feel like I'm always learning, and because of that, it's like I just feel like there's just like this unlimited like path of like so much to explore, and I'm just like really appreciative like of the Twitch community and queer streamers for providing a space like that, because I am secretly in chat lurking all the time and having and seeing what everyone has to say about it, because it's like I identify as what you're saying, or like I resonate with that, but like quietly as I lurk in your stream.
We love the lurkers.
I think that's wonderful.
Shout out to lurkers.
I think that's absolutely wonderful what you've said there, though, and I think that's like a great point, is that just because you identify as one thing at one time doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be that way for the rest of your life. Like when I was young, I thought I was straight. And then later on in life, when I started like questioning things, it was actually, funnily enough, this was even before I came out as trans, but there was this trans man barista at a local Starbucks, and he was absolutely adorable. And at the time, like they were very early on in transition, so I essentially was like interior in my head, because I didn't know them, I was misgendering them in my head. And then when I found out that they used he, him pronouns and who they were, and they were very like androgynous, at that point, I started thinking about things a little bit more, and then I thought about like the androgyny. I'm like, yeah, like, I'm attracted to androgyny, but am I also attracted to guys? And I started to think about it. I'm like, yeah, I guess I am. So I started as straight, and then I was pan, and then as I went through transition, all of a sudden now I'm demi, because I've started to figure out that, okay, so I'm actually not that attracted to people unless I really get to know them. And like most of the time I just don't experience attraction. So yeah, I guess that's me now. So don't necessarily limit yourself, because you can change throughout your entire life depending on your situation as you learn more things and just have more experiences. So even if you think you're straight right now, you might have the right experience. One day you might not be straight anymore.
So true.
Sexuality is
tell
so
you that.
fluid too. Like that's always changing and moving. I say this all the time to my community because they'll be like, Amy, I thought I was gay, but now I want everything. And I'm like,
Yeah.
sexuality is fluid. Live your best life. You know what I mean? When I first got onto the Twitch space, I was in a cis relationship. And so appearances wise, it looked like I was just regular cis normative, et cetera, and I was with a man. I had a moderator that said, hey, you should use the LGBTQIA plus tag. And I was like, I feel like I can't do that because I'm with a man, and it looks like I'm not gay because I'm with a man. And my friend was like, that doesn't matter. You're still gay. Like, if the man weren't there, maybe you wouldn't be dating a man. You know what I mean? That doesn't take away your gayness, because at the time, 5 years ago, people were still kind of doing bi and pan erasure, where it's like,
Oh, it's
but
still
you're
happening now as well.
which is
But
still
yeah.
happening now
Yeah.
in a big
True.
way, even within the LGBTQIA plus community. And so like a lot when I was back then, when I first started streaming, I felt like I couldn't claim that title for myself because people would be like, prove it. I was like, oh, would you like me to go and kiss a woman? Would that prove it? Would you like me to kiss both a man and a woman at the same time? Like, would that prove it? Like, how do we do that? And then as I like continued on my journey, you know, I left that partner and moved forward, and now I'm dating a woman. And people are like, oh, you're pansexual, but aren't you just like gay because you're dating a woman? And I'm like, no, because the history of my life, I still was attracted to these other people that may not have identified as this. And so it's like a constant fight. But I remember it was like the first time when I got on Twitch, a year later, my mod was like, why don't you identify as LGBTQIA plus, because you are? And I was like, I feel like I'm not allowed to, that people are going to call me out and be like, you're not gay enough, you know? But that's not true. Like, we're as gay as we are already, you know? We are enough by ourselves. And so don't let like other people define your sexuality or put you in a box, because that's your choice and your definition for yourself. If you want to put yourself in a box, get in your box, you know what I mean? But like, know that that box is amorphous, and you can go into another box or even make your box bigger, et cetera, et
Yeah,
cetera.
and
Absolutely.
to add to that, like Amy brought up, like whoever you're dating or whoever your partner is or whatever it is does not define like your sexuality, and I think that's like a misconception with like, oh, if like I'm I guess femme presenting and I'm dating a man, it's like, oh, they're straight, and then and then if I'm with a woman, it's like lesbian, and just automatically, and it's like no, I could be bi, I could be pan, like it, and being my partner should not identify or should not dictate what we identify as, and I think that's just, and that's, I want to say that's even an issue prevalent even in the queer community, whereas that's queer people also kind of box other queer people into these like labels.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like the easiest way of putting it for people that might not understand, like let's use a food analogy here. So I like pancakes and I like waffles. Just because I'm eating pancakes right now doesn't mean that I've stopped liking
You hate
waffles.
waffles
Yeah,
now.
I don't hate
How
waffles
could you?
now.
You hate
Like
waffles.
later on I'd be like, yeah,
You
you know
can
what? I'm gonna
only
have some
choose
waffles.
one.
Wow, that felt really real.
Well, so now I'm just gonna have pancakes and waffles every single time on my plate, every time, just so people
Yeah.
know.
Why not both?
We're always putting the pan in pancake. Anyways, let's do a giveaway.
I'm in panic.
Yes. So we're gonna do one last giveaway for the stream. Thank you guys so much for hanging out all the way up until this point. We have one other chance to win. If we can put the rewards up once again on stream, thank you so much. So in order to enter, make sure you are following the Square Enix Twitch channel. And if you want, you can go ahead and throw a follow onto amisometimes, emme, miabyte. It's free today. So make sure you enter, or you follow, you enter with hashtag sweepstakes, and make sure your Twitch whispers are open. This is only for the Americas and European regions, so please be mindful of that. And yeah, those are the rewards. Good luck, everybody.
Best of luck.
Best of luck. Put that hashtag sweepstakes in chat.
Yes. And I also just want to say, I saw in the chat a little bit earlier how there was a person who was learning a lot of new terms just by watching and listening into this stream. And I thought that that was really, really great. And so I kind of wanted to extend the invite maybe. If this is your first time catching a Pride stream, not just Square Enix, but like for any Pride stream, do give a follow to amisometimes, give a follow to Emme, give a follow to miabyte, and learn something, you know? They're not always going to teach you, but I'm sure that them and their respective communities are willing to be there and help you, push you in the right direction, especially if you're questioning stuff or you don't know.
We are
Definitely.
always talking about queer spaces, queer identities, and like discovering new ones for ourselves and each other.
Yeah, I think one of the nicest things about the community on Twitch too is that, yeah, we are always learning. And sometimes we don't know certain experiences, but that doesn't mean we can't go and learn them with you. If you don't know something and we don't know something, well, let's learn it together. It's a great way. But yeah, make sure you follow the Twitch channel, hashtag sweepstakes, keep those Twitch whispers open. As we're kind of nearing towards the end of the stream here, any closing thoughts from any of our lovely guests here?
There's definitely something I wanted to touch on, and it's in terms of like the current state of LGBTQIA plus like all around the world. Obviously, within the last decade, we've seen like the rise of anti-LGBTQIA plus hate. I think it's like hate crimes on the basis of sexual orientation are up by 112% in the last 5 years. Still only like half of lesbian, gay, and bi people and trans people feel comfortable about talking about their sexual orientation or gender identity to even family. It's ridiculous. And like right now, I think in the US there have been over 500. There have been 595 bills introduced in 43 states. 42 have passed. There are 335 active and 220 have failed anti-trans bills going and legislation trying to be put through in the last several years, and that's ridiculous. In the UK, in the space of 2 hours, there is emergency legislation put in place, drafted and passed in the Houses of Parliament to block trans youth from using puberty blockers. This is regardless of if you had a prescription, whether or not it was through the public accessible NHS or if it was a private prescription. You just can't use them anymore. Even if you had them, you're now banned from even using them. Cis people can still use them, but trans people can't. And I wanted to make sure that this is something that we do highlight. I mean, in 64 countries, it's still illegal to be gay. And people are asking, well, why do we need Pride? Now, this is the reason that we need Pride. Pride is a protest as well as being a celebration of the queer community. And it's very important that we still stand up to this hate. And I know that's a bit of a downer to say, but we are still moving in a better direction. There is pushback, but I want to put the message out there that this pushback is only there because it's the death throes of conservatism and people who hate us. They're doing everything they can because they know they're losing the battle of doing what we need to do, and what we need to do is normalization. we're getting to the point where it's just going to be completely normal eventually to be any type of queer, and they can't handle that. So I know it might seem dark at the moment, especially if you're a trans person this year. Believe me, I know, I've experienced it, but it is and will get better. It is going to get better.
Absolutely.
Even just a couple days ago, so I live in Florida, of course, and there's a lot of anti-trans gender affirming care for youths that are being being sent to legislation and stuff like that. Even just a few days ago, it was shot down by the federal court as unjust and illegal and unconstitutional. And so even though there's so much the bigots, the hate, the people who are spouting hate and violence, even it's so loud, doesn't matter. We're still fighting. We are constantly fighting. The first Pride was a riot. It continues to be a riot, and we are fighting out there. So don't lose hope. Those of you guys who are still discovering yourselves, maybe you're in a place that you can't come out. It's not safe to come out. It's okay. You'll get your time. It's happening. It's gonna happen. It's getting better. It gets better, and it will get better because we're still all fighting out there. Despite how tired we may seem, we are absolutely still loud and proud, and that's what Pride is all about and why it's so important every single year, every single day.
Hell yeah.
That and
What's
Yeah,
that?
oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I really appreciate like how important that was like to discuss because it is changing every day, and yeah, but you just have to think about that ideal, like what you want for future generations. Like Miguel, I know you said earlier that that's like your motivation. That's my motivation as well, as like future generations and what the future world would look like. I know somebody in the chat asked like if there's a wall that or a stereotype that we would want to work to break down. And I think for me, it's that idea of norm and normal, like even the concept of coming out, while it's a beautiful and amazing thing to celebrate, I also wonder like what a world would look like where people don't expect anyone to be straight or
Yeah.
any or to be cis or anything. Like there's no expectations on anyone because there is not one norm.
Absolutely. It'd be nice to get to the point where having a queer character in a video game didn't have to be newsworthy. You know,
Absolutely.
I know we keep saying it, but normalization is that key part of it, right? Most bigotry comes from people being sheltered or uneducated, or maybe like they're misled by media, which we're seeing more and more. Like that, so many people. There's so much misinformation out there, and I feel like it's so important to have that education out there, just to just make being who we are a normal thing, and like we'll get there eventually. It's just we just need more representation, more good things happening.
And I want to say that the fight continues, right? Like, yeah, Pride is a protest, and even though it might look like surface level for anyone who isn't part of the LGBT community, that like, oh, like everything's all great, right? Like we're celebrating Pride every month and whatnot, but every year it's just another reminder that, outside of June, there's still, like, we still exist, we're not just gay in June and then all of a sudden we're like, back on like, oh, well, being gay's over. I know, being gay's over, I'm back to being straight today.
Yeah.
And so, just having conversations, like for me, it's like knowing that conversations are still happening. Unfortunately, June is really the only time where everyone can feel proud and validated for being themselves, but then that's also where the, more conservative minority will put on there, I'm going to be sitting down and just spew a bunch of hate online because that's my 24/7 job. There's so much more to do for the community. The battle doesn't stop outside of June, and but we are always welcomed in the spaces for anyone who provides it. And so I guess all I can say is just, so important to find that community to feel safe in.
Very well put.
And June is a great time to do that because a lot of the communities get louder out now. So you could be finding your spaces, your people, discovering stuff about yourself, and then carry that energy through the rest of the year.
These people, oh wait, where am I? These people down there. Great segue. I think we should close up this raffle and get this going. Let's pull the winners for the giveaway. Thank you guys so much for entering. Thank you so much for being here. First winner is X Tyson. XTAISSON.
Congratulations.
They're one of my mods. Yay!
Let's go!
That was awesome.
That's awesome. Okay, and the second, final. How do I'm gonna just say Ariel. Ariel, check out your Twitch whispers.
I think it's Ariel Smurf Eater.
Ariel Smurf Eater. That's very good.
Congratulations.
Congrats,
A
everybody.
very specific diet.
Yes. Woo. But yeah, that's going to do it for today's stream. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We hope that you enjoyed yourself, enjoyed the convo. And yeah, like we said before, if you're looking for a community, they're down there. Follow them. Amy sometimes, Emme, and miabyte. Yeah. And at their Twitch handles right there. So please give them a follow. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out. Thank you, Amy and Emme and Mia, for hanging out with us too. Miguel and Luxie as well. Thank you so much. That's it. Happy Pride. Today's the gay.
Today's the gay.
Happy Pride, everybody.
Happy
Thank you
Pride,
so
everyone.
much.
Happy
Congrats,
Pride.
Happy
queers.
Pride.
Congrats, queers.
Congrats, queers. Let's go.